President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. Before inviting the witness to come to testify before the chamber, after hearing this witness, the witness will start to hear 2 TCW 906. And in relation to the request by the defense team for Nguyen Chi, and after hearing the submission responses and also replies of parties, the chamber will issue its ruling and the written decision tomorrow. Court officer, please invite the witness into the courtroom. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. What is your name? Answer. My name is Mok T. Mok Team, rather. President, thank you, Mr. Mok Team. The written records of the interview, your name is written as Moxie Team. Have you ever used the name Moxie Team? Answer. That name was used in Pol Pot's time, Moxie Team, and currently I am also using the name Moxie Team, that is C before team. President, I am clarifying the name, your name, Moxie Team or Mok Team. You stated a while ago that your name is Mok Team. Are the two names referring to the same person or different people? And my question to follow is, did you used to work in S21 during the Khmer Rouge time? Answer, I was working in S21. Question, and which name did you use during the time? Answer, I used the name Moxie Team. Question, what about your current official name in your village or locality? Is your official name Moxie Team or Mok Team? For instance, which name do you use in the official identity card of Cambodia? Answer, I use the name Mok Team. President, thank you. So the chamber notes that your official name is Mok Team, and you used to be referred to as a Moxie Team as well in the past. And when were you born, Mr. Tim? Answer. I was born in 1962. I was born on the 4th April 1962. 4th April 1962. President, on the 5th or on the 4th? Answer, on the 5th of April 1962, Mr. President. President, and where were you born? Answer, I was born in Tasok village, Saip commune, Kampong Trolai district, Kampong Chnang province. What about your current address? Where are you living? Said the President. Answer, I am living in Saip commune, Kampong Trolai district, Kampong Chnang province. Question, and what is your current occupation? Answer, I am a farmer. Question, what are your parents' names? Answer, Mok Tu, Top Yan. And what about your wife? What is her name and how many children do you have? My wife's name is Sieng Im. I have 6 children, all of them are sons. Thank you, Mr. Mok Tim. Based on the report of the greffier, to the best of your knowledge, you have no relationship by blood or by law to any of the 2 accused, Nuon Chea and Khieu Samphan, or to any of the civil parties admitted in this case. Is the report correct? Answer, that is correct, Mr. President. Question, Mr. Mok Tim, before your appearance, have you already taken an oath before the Iron Club statue to the east of this court building? Answer, I took a note already, Mr. President. Question, Mr. Mok Tim, I am now informing you of your rights and obligations. Your rights. As a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you may refuse to respond to any question or to make any comment which may incriminate you. Right against self-incrimination. Your obligations. Mr. Mok Tim, as a witness, you must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comments to those questions may incriminate you, as the chamber has just informed you of your rights as a witness. As a witness, you must tell the truth that you have known, heard, seen, remembered, experienced, or observed directly about an event or occurrence relevant to the questions that the bench or parties pose to you. Mr. Mok Tim, have you ever provided the interviews, or have you ever interviewed by the investigators of the OCIJ so far? If so, how many times did they take place and where? Answer, they happened long time ago. I cannot recall the date, the exact date when I was interviewed. It happened during a time that my parents were alive at the time. President, so in total, did you provide only one interview to the investigators of the OCIJ, or did it happen several times? Do you recall that? Answer, they went to my house on one occasion to interview me at the time when I was in my village. President, thank you. Before your appearance, have you read and reviewed the written record of the interview that you stated you provided once to the investigators of the OCIJ. Answer: I can recall some, but not all. President: have you reviewed the written record of the interview? Answer: I have reviewed some parts of it. President: to your recollection, does that written record of the interview you read correspond to the testimonies or statement you provided to the investigator once at your house? Answer: it is consistent, some of it. President: some of it. What about other part of your written record of interview? Is the other part of the interview consistent, and which part is not consistent with your previous statement? Can you tell the chamber? Answer: perhaps I may have overstated in the written record of the interview, and I cannot recall what I said at the time, since that interview happened several years ago. President: thank you. And now you have the duty counsel that the chamber provided to you to assist you. His name is Mương Sok Wan, and on the basis of internal rule 91bis of the ECCC, the floor is given first to the co-prosecutors. The combined time for co-prosecutors and lead co-lawyers for civil party is 2 sessions. You can proceed now. Co-prosecutor: thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Your Honors. Good afternoon, everyone in and around the courtroom. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. I am Song Cho-wan. I am the National Deputy Co-Prosecutor. I have several questions to put to you, Mr. Witness. Mr. Witness, you provided the interview to the investigators of the OCIJ several years in the past, and you just told that to the President. I am asking you about your experience at S21, and particularly in relation to your background before you went to work at S21. Can you tell the chamber what did you do? What did you do before you were sent to work at S21? Which school did you join before you went to work at S21? Answer: before I was sent to work at S21, in fact, I was abroad in a group, and at the time, truckloads of people were sent to went to Phnom Penh, and I was sent to Takmau to learn how to grow vegetable and to learn the technique of using weapons. And after that, I went to play saw to grow radish. Co-prosecutor interrupts. Thank you, Mr. Witness. I will go further when I asked you about S21. You stated that you joined the military strategies training session. And at the time, which unit were you part of, and where was the headquarters of your unit or your division? Answer: after the conclusion of the training session on military strategies, I was reassigned to other location, and at the time I did not know who my superiors were, since I was about 16 years old. I was quite young, and 50 of us attended the training session, and after the conclusion of the training session, we were sent into different locations. I was, at the time, sent to a location before I was sent to S21. In fact, I was reassigned to several locations to work before I was transferred to S21. Co-prosecutor, Mr. Witness, you stated that you attended the military strategy in the training session. Can you tell the chamber which unit or division were you part of at the time when you attended the training session? Answer. I cannot recall which unit or division. Actually, we were not divided into units or divisions. We were not put into specific units or division to be ready for the battlefield. However, we were told to attend the military strategies. At the time, we are also required to learn how to grow vegetables. And after the conclusion of the training sessions, we were transferred into different targets. For example, some location, we were 10 or 5 of us were sent to one location, another group were sent to another groups were sent to other locations. Question. And where did you go after that? Answer. Then I was assigned to join the medical training session close to Soria in the area of Satmai. I was in that training session, medical training session, for 2 or 3 months at a time. I was taught how to inject medicine, and 10 of us were in the training session at the time, but I cannot recall the specific participants at the time. And after that training, I was transferred to S21, and at the time, albeit the training, I did not know much about medication and also how to inject medicines. I had only the basic trainings from medics, and when I was sent to S21, I was required to go and administer or deliver medicines at S21. Co-prosecutor, you stated that you attended the 3-month training session on medicines at Satmai, and what topics or what subjects specifically were you trained at Satmai? Answer. The male medic trained me, and there was a board that he used at the time, writing the names of the medicines of France, and the specific illnesses were required to administer some medicines, and at the times we were taught also how to give injection. Co-prosecutor, in the record E3/7673, you stated that after that training session, medical training session, you were sent back to Takmau for another training session for a period of 8 and 9 months. So what subjects did you study when you were at Takmau after you were transferred from Satmai? Answer. After medical training sessions, I cannot recall well. And before I was sent to S21, I learned how to make the tablets, that is the tablets of medicines. And I, at that place, studied with them. Co-prosecutor, which unit were you in when you were at Dak Mau to learn how to produce or make tablets of medicines? Answer: I did not know which unit I was in, but that unit was part of S21, since the medicine or the pills were sent from that Dak Mau to S21. After I left Dak Mau location for S21, I recognized those pills. The pills at Dak Mau was produced by me, and at the time I learned how to produce them. Question: so what are you saying? What do you mean by saying were producing the pills at Dak Mau? So what was the effects of those medicines? What were those medicines used for? Answer: I can recall that I made the medicines from the flour of sweet potato with the sugar, with vinegar, and also I used the palm fruits to produce the medicine of quinine. There were two older males going around to look for herbs or for leaves, and there was a machine to produce the pills. A few older male were going around to collect the leaves or roots of trees so that those can be grind in the machine, can be grounded in the machine, and after that the pills could be produced.
After the 3-month medical training in Sa Thmai and later on to produce pills for about 8 or 9 months in Dak Mau, what else did you do before you were assigned to S21? Answer: I did not attend any other session. I was then sent to there. And maybe I was the last batch to sent to S21, because S21 had been established much earlier, and probably my group was needed to be there to supplement those medical staff already existed at S21, since our group was pretty young. Question: and do you recall when you were assigned to work at S21? Answer: I cannot recall the year. I didn't stay there for long, and I probably stayed there for about a year, or probably a bit over a year. And if I stayed there much longer, maybe I could not survive. Because when I was there providing treatment to the prisoners, it seems that myself might be perceived as one of those prisoners. And although I was assigned to work specific to each buildings and to each floor. Co-prosecutor interrupts. Mr. Witness, please limit your response to what I asked you. Question: and you said you studied for 8 or 9 months in Dak Mau, and was it upon your completion that you were immediately sent to work at S21? Answer: after that I was sent, although I cannot recall the year. It happened many years ago. It's almost 40 years ago. Question: let me talk about your role at S21. After you were assigned to work there, what were your specific daily roles or routines? Can you describe them to the chamber? Answer. I was assigned to work there as a medic. In the morning, I had pills and cleaning tools as well as some medicines, and I put them in a bag. Together there were with other bandages, for example, and I usually cleanse the wounds of the prisoners around 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and gave them pills. Question. Did you also work in the afternoon and at night time? And if so, what did you do? Answer. At night time I slept in a house, and sometimes I was also on a standby during the night time at the medical office. Question. You said you started working at around 6 or 7 in the morning, and until what time did you stop? And what time did you resume your work? Answer. In the morning, I distributed the pills to prisoners, cleaned their wounds, and after that I had to wash the bandages that I used to wrap around the wounds, and that lasted for about 2 hours. Then it was lunch time. Then I resumed working again at around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I resumed the same work, that is to clean the wound and to give pills and wash the bandages ready for next day. And at that time we did not have any proper bandages. Sometimes we had to use pieces of cloth or pieces of mosquito net to applied as a bandage for prisoners. Question. And where did you actually work? That is, where you cleansed the wound or applied the bandages to prisoners. Was it within the internal compound of I-21? And so there were many medics, so we were assigned to a different floor of each building, and pills will be distributed to prisoners in a room, or in a large rooms, or in a cell. So sometimes I entered a big room where prisoners were shackled in a row, and I gave them pills. Other medics were assigned to the second or the third floor. So we were assigned to different floors, and there were 3 detention buildings there. Question. Does it mean that your tasks were to enter those buildings into different rooms within the building? And where is actually your medical office? Did you actually have a permanent medical office where prisoners were sent there for treatment? Or did you have to go and treat prisoners in their cell or room? Answer. Prisoners were not brought outside for treatment. They will be treated in their room or in their cell. As for light offend prisoners, they will be treated in their common room. They were not allowed to be treated outside. And they had to be treated while they were still in shackles in the room. Question. It is not clear to me, in particular in relation to your previous statement with OCIJ, that is E3/7673 at Khmer N0016 3711, English 0040 1871, and French 0030 5212. You were asked by an interrogator and you said that the medical house was located opposite S21, free translation. Can you tell the chamber what house was it that you refer to as a medical house? And maybe I cannot recall that in my previous response. In fact, there was a medical house opposite the main entrance to S21. It was a wooden house, however, it was a concrete house on the ground floor and a wooden house on the top floor. Question. Can you also clarify whether that medical house was located within the parameter of I-21 or was it located outside? Answer. In fact, the actual compound of I-21 was pretty large, and of course it was located within the parameter of I-21. It was located opposite the main entrance. That is, it's about 10 meters away from the main entrance. Question. Was that house located at the inner part of the barbed wire fence? Answer. It was located outside the fence. And of course, that's where we stay, and we were not allowed to wander inside. Question. What was the medical house used for then? Answer. In short, of course, it was not comparable to the current medical office, because after the liberations, the houses were there, and we mainly slept in that medical house. We did not even have a mat to sleep on. We had to find whatever we could in the nearby vicinity for a mosquito net or an old mat. And we also had to find some boxes, there's plastic boxes to store pills. It was not a proper hygienic medical house. Question. Was that the medical house used for the treatment of prisoners? I mean, were prisoners sent to be treated in that medical house? And the chief of the center would not allow prisoners to be taken outside for treatment. This is my observation when I distributed those pills to prisoners. Despite the seriousness of their condition, they would not be allowed to go outside. And if the prisoner condition was not better after the pills I gave them, then there would be another medical chief who would treat that particular prisoner. Although I did not know the details about the medicine provided by that chief medic, since my medicinal knowledge was limited to the training that I received. Question. Let me put it this way. Regarding prisoners that needed treatment, did you actually have to go to their room or cell to provide them the pills, or they had to be sent to a particular room for the treatment? Answer. Since I started working as a medic there, prisoners were not taken anywhere. They would be treated on spot in the room where they were detained. They were never unshackled and sent anywhere. And if the condition became more severe, then I reported that to the chief of the medic, and they will be treated by that chief medic. Question. This is also a point that I need a further clarification from you in your written record of interview. That is the same document I referred to previously. You were asked whether you provided the treatment to prisoner who was being interrogated, and you said that no, usually that prisoner will be put on a stretcher and brought to you for treatment. Can you tell the chamber the location for that particular treatment? Answer. Although the prisoner was put on a stretcher, actually the prisoner was taken to be treated still inside the perimeter of the compound. Although they were treated outside the room, but it was along the veranda or along the walk path, just outside their detention room. Question. Let me ask you about the method of treatment that you use for the treatment of prisoners who had been interrogated and their interrogation was not yet concluded. Were there any cases that you were required to provide treatment to prisoners whose interrogations had not yet concluded? Answer. There were several medics. Sometimes I had to examine other prisoners whose condition was not that severe, and there was a chief medic who provided treatment to those prisoners with severe condition. And if prisoners could not be treated after they were brought back from interrogation, then I had to be to report it to the chief medic. Question. I'd like to refer to your written record of interview. That is the same document, E3/76773 at Khmer EN 001637111 and English at 00401871, French 00305212. When you were asked the question, you said that the interrogator said you, comrade, had to treat that prisoner because I haven't yet concluded my interrogation with that prisoner. Free translation. Can you tell the chamber if you actually provided treatment to any prisoner whose interrogation was not yet concluded? And let me ask you for clarification. For important prisoners, the interrogator would warn us to be careful with the treatment, with their medical condition or wounds, because their confessions or their interrogations were not yet concluded. That's what we were warned. Questioned. And those who sent the prisoner to you for your treatment, that is those important prisoners, did the people who brought the prisoners to you tell you why you had to be careful and had to treat that prisoner so that the prisoner would recover fully? And I did not ask many questions. If I was assigned to be careful and to be vigilant in providing treatment to a particular prisoner in room A or room B, for instance, then I had to be very careful. I never used violence or any cruel words toward the prisoners. Question. Do you recall the person who told you that you had to fully treat that particular prisoner? Do you recall his name? Answer. They never made such a direct order to me, only my direct superior who told me about that I had to be extra careful in my treatment of this individual in room A or room B. Of course, the interrogator did not tell me in person, but they would speak to my chief, and my chief would further instructed me how to treat a particular prisoner, for example, after their nail had been removed. And of course, some of them actually recovered. Question. Do you recall any one of those who actually sent prisoners for treatment by you? Do you recall any of their names? Answer. I only recall 2 chiefs. One was from my native village. The one name was Hu, and in fact there were 2 Hu. One was a group chief and one was the big chief. Or rather, one was Ho and the other one was Hu. And I received instructions from these 2 superiors. There were others, but later on I separated from them, that is after the arrival of the Vietnamese. Question. My question is rather different. That is, in your written record of interview, you said Hu and Tri were chief of the medical unit. But my question is in relation to those who actually carried the prisoners to you for your treatment. Who actually carried the prisoners to you for treatment? Answer. In S21 prison, I only knew about the time that I had to give pills to prisoners. I would be told by Hu that which room I had to go to give the treatment to the prisoners and not go to any interrogation room. And I never went outside to bring any prisoners for treatment. And I was not required to provide a treatment to any prisoner who was on a stretcher, that is after that person was interrogated. Question. I'm a bit confused. Previously you said that prisoners were brought in on a stretcher to you for treatment, that is outside the room that they were detained. And my question focused on the people who carried that prisoner. If you recall their names and their positions. Answer. I did not know any of them at all, because I did not have anything to do with or to interfere with the interrogators. We, a medical unit staff, had to be separate from the interrogation unit staff. Even during our meal time, we did not sit at the same table, although we ate in the same dining hall. Question, and allow me to get further clarification from you. During the time that you worked as a medic at S21, did you ever receive prisoners who was sent to you for treatment by interrogator or by guard after they were interrogated? Answer: I did not know much about that. Prisoners were carried by other people for treatment, and usually it was the interrogators who carried prisoners for treatment. Question: and besides 21 prisoners, were you ever assigned to provide treatment to other people outside the compound of S21? Answer: personally, no. I was never assigned to provide any treatment to anyone outside the compound. Question: again, in your same interview at the same EN number that I referred to previously, you were asked whether you provided treatment to people outside the fence of the prison, and you said that you provided treatment to the commanders and the wives of the commanders of a battalion or a regiment. Does that jog your memory? Answer: I know about the treatment of the battalion commanders, and that happened that is just at the front of the building, and I did not treat them regularly. There were other medics who provide a better treatment. For example, when a medic could not insert a needle into the vein, then I would have a whole hand of that individual battalion commander. And from my recollection, I did that only for one time. And generally, I would only provide treatment to prisoners. Question: and besides the regiment or battalion commander or their wife, did you provide treatments to staff or cadres of X-21? Answer: no. There was a separate medical unit to provide treatment to staff or to guard or to the interrogation team. I was not allowed to be on mobile to provide treatment to interrogators or to give them pills. My main task was to provide treatment to prisoners. I was one of the 5 medics who were assigned to do that. Question: did you ever provide the treatment to Prakon who had problem with his ears? Answer: I cannot recall that at all. I cannot recall it. Even the name, that name does not ring a bell to me. I forget all those names as it happened many years ago. Question: you have just stated that you provided a treatment to prisoners who were beaten or that their nails had been removed. And can you tell the chamber after your treatment where were those prisoners taken to? Answer: my main task was to treat them, and if the prisoner was of important status, then I would be I would be want to take extra care for a complete recovery of that particular prisoner, and that's all I was told at the time. Question. You told an OCHA investigator that a prisoner was sent to you for treatment, and you were then told that one of the interrogators told you that you, comrade, had to treat that prisoner so that the prisoner would recover, since the interrogation was not yet concluded. And can you recall whether you actually treated that prisoner, and did he recover? And if so, later on, where was he taken? Answer. As a medic at the time, I could not do a close follow-up of any prisoner, because I was not in the same position as a guard or my chief. My task was to work to treat the prisoner during the working hours, and at the end of my shift, I could not know what happened. And as I said, sometimes I was told that this prisoner was of important status, so that I had to be extra careful in providing the treatment. But I was never told whether the prisoner was taken elsewhere after full recovery. Question. Did you know Dutch? Answer. While I was working at S21, I met him on one or two occasions. He rarely came to the prison buildings or to the medical house, and he usually stayed within the vicinity of the kitchen hall. So again, I saw him once or twice only.
Question. In your statement, you said that Doj was S21's chief. Do you recall that statement? Answer. I could recognize S21, and Doj was actually working at S21. Question. In the court proceeding on 27 April 2009, between 10:26:05 to 10:28:25, Doj stated before the chamber that, let me quote, the medic unit first had a duty to treat cataracts, and then Doj further stated, so from that time onwards, cataracts within the office went to hospital 98. And lastly, the medics were responsible for treating prisoner for full recovery. Doj stated that medic within S21 had the duty to treat the prisoner to their full recovery, and after the interrogation, they would be sent away. So from what Doj stated, it reflected about the experience that you used to work as S21. Does this were this consistent with the work that you did at S21? Answer. Let me clarify the point once again. I do not know whether the prisoners were sent away after they were treated, and these were under the responsibility of other people. My main role and duties were to treat prisoners. It was not my responsibility to send or bring prisoners to any other locations. I do not know about that. Co-prosecutor, thank you. At S21, how many medical houses or how many hospitals belongs under the supervision of S21? Can you clarify that point? Answer. There were two types of medical houses. One type was to treat the medics, those who were stressed with work could go to that medical house. One was in the south and another one was in the north. Co-prosecutors, now I'm asking you about the medics who were working outside or the medical house outside. Do you know whether there was a hospital or medical house established for treating cadres who were wounded or injured within the Phnom Penh city? Answer. From my experience at S21, I have never known about the existence of a big or main hospital or small hospitals. In fact, I had to resort to my own medication when I felt sick. There were a few medics working in the medical house outside. That was the simple house. It was not like the modern clinic equipped with medical equipment. There were mosquito nets and pillows for medics. And usually in that medical house, there were rapid drop pills. Co-prosecutor, you told the court earlier, and I want your clarification on that point, so I put the question again. You were a medic at S21, and during the time of your work, what were the condition of the prisoners? Usually, what kind of injuries they sustained, and what was the result of injuries from your observation? Answer. Illnesses, regarding illnesses of prisoners, they did not have rice, cooked rice to eat. They had only a gruel with morning glories to eat. They were there for days, for months. Although medics provided treatments on a daily basis, they did not have rice to eat. They would be not healthy. They could not have the proper latrines or toilets to relieve themselves, and the atmosphere within the room was not good. They become emaciated, so the conditions of prisoners were not good. Co-prosecutor, to make that point clearly, you stated that some of the prisoners had the back injuries because of beating. So can you describe the conditions of the prisoners, and what were the conditions of that injured prisoner? Answer. I treated that prisoner. After that prisoner had been interrogated, I had no alcohol at the time. I had only salt or water to apply on the wound. And usually I had the red liquids to apply on the wound. However, at the time the red liquid ran out of, so I used the powder from the medicine to apply, and after that I wrapped the wound with the bandage, and I once again had to use the salt water. So I cleaned the wound for that prisoner on a daily basis, once per day. Co-prosecutor, regarding that prisoner, did you pour the salt water onto that open wound after that prisoner was sent to you for treatment? Answer: no, we had the medical methods to clean the wound. We had the proper method to apply. I was not cruel. I had a heart of human beings. So I had used proper medical methodology or technique. If I had committed any wrongdoings in my work, I would have been disciplined or punished. So I used proper techniques or skills. Co-prosecutor, you stated that that prisoner had been brought from the interrogation room. So what happened to his back that led to open wound as a result of beating? Answer: the prisoners that I treated told me that they were beaten up on their back. Question: did that specific prisoner tell you what kind of equipment they were beaten up? They were used to beat them? Answer: I did not ask a further question in relation to that matter. That prisoner told me that he was beaten up during the interrogation. It was not my responsibility to inquire the prisoners for any kind of information. I was not allowed to spend much time with the prisoners. I was required only to treat the prisoner as quickly as possible. Question: what about the prisoner whose nails were pulled off? Were nails from one side of feet pulled off, or both sides, or from both sides? Answer: I did not ask that prisoner. That prisoner told me that the interrogator used the plier to pull out the nails from the fingers and from the toes, and I asked why, and that the prisoner told me that the interrogator used the plier to pull off the nails. Co-prosecutor, do you recall what was the name of the interrogator that used the pliers to pull off the nails of that prisoner? Answer: I did not go to observe the interrogation at the time, and I was not allowed to go close to the interrogation room. My responsibility was to treat a prisoner. Medics were not allowed to go close to chit-chat with the interrogator, and vice versa. They were working in different rooms, and I was in my own rooms working. Question: regarding the prisoners whose nails were pulled off, so what kind of technique, skills, or proper treatment did you use? Answer. I had to clean the wound with the salt water and the red liquid, and after that the bandage were used to wrap the wound. And when the time came, I had to clean again and wrap with the bandages. If I did not clean the wound, I would be accused of not treating the prisoners well. Question. Did you use any kind of antibiotics to clean the wound and to treat the wound? Answer. At the time, we had some antibiotics. The red liquid, there is the pay type of pehulale, said the witness, antibiotic, and that can mix with the red liquid and after that applied on the wound with the bandage. And at the time, as I said, there were no proper bandages. So we used the cloth, piece of cloth or pieces of mosquito nets to wrap the wound for prisoner. And we have the steaming pots to sterilize the nets or the mosquito nets and the piece of cloth after we clean them. Question. Had you ever treated the prisoners who had been electrocuted? Answer. I never saw the prisoner had been electrocuted or any prisoners had fainted or became unconscious. Usually the prisoners were of minor illnesses, for example, the wound from the beating and also the wound from the pulling of nails. But there were other medics provided the treatment. In the same document, 0016 37 13 English 0040 1872 and French 0030 52 14. You stated that I used to see the prisoner who had been electrocuted. That prisoner told me about the electrocution. I used vitamins B12 and B1. Did you remember that? Do you recall that you provided this statement to the investigator? Answer. The interview happened several years ago. I may have forgotten some of the work that I did at the time. Yes, a prisoner had been electrocuted. Actually, perhaps those prisoners may have been fainted at the interrogation room, and those prisoners were walked to the room where I treated. Co-prosecutor. Why you administered vitamins B12 and B1 to the prisoners who had been electrocuted? Was this the proper medication for prisoners who received electrocution? Answer. It's that the work that I did at the time, I did that work almost 40 years ago. I may have forgotten the proper medication at the time. Yes, in fact, I used B12 and B1. I gave injection of B12 and B1 to those prisoners. Co-prosecutor. Did you have the authority to decide which type of medicines you administered, or was there a clear regulation that you had to use B12 and B1? Answer: I asked my chief medic after I could not be successful in the treatment of the prisoners, and after that he told me, he ordered me to use specific types of medication. Question: could you make your own decision to apply or administer specific medicines, or did you have to seek the order or instruction from your chief medic? Answer: generally speaking, I rarely treated the prisoner with the serious illnesses. Usually those prisoners with serious illnesses were treated by my chief medics. And after my report to my superior, my direct supervisor, that one specific prisoner was seriously ill, usually he would come to treat that prisoner, and I would be asked to go and treat another prisoner. Question: during the time that you treat the injured prisoners, did you have to treat those prisoners until they got recovery before they could be sent back to for interrogation? Answer: I was a medic, and I did not go to observe and monitor the interrogation process. I treated hundreds of prisoners, so I did not did a follow-up or medical follow-up on those prisoners. And as for the disappearance of those prisoners, I did not know when they were sent away and when they disappeared and if they were killed or executed. And whenever, as I said, the prisoners were sick and I could not provide complete treatment, I would go to my medic chiefs to seek instruction and to help. Question: during the treatment of prisoners, the injured prisoners, because of the beating on their back, the prisoner with the nails pulled off, and the prisoners who were electrocuted, what was the psychological condition of those prisoners during the time that you treated them? Answer: I was a medic, and we were the same human beings, so I am seeking your consideration on this point. At the time, I considered myself a supposedly prisoner as well, so we were in the same situation. They were prisoner, and I considered myself a prisoner as well. We do not think of any other matter besides the fact that we would end up in the center. So we encourage one another to have the strength. And sometimes prisoners disappeared, and I do not know where they were sent to. Trucks were coming into the center, but I do not know what happened. I was simply a medic. Interrogators, guards, and any other people did not come to chit-chat with me, although some of us were from the same village. Co-prosecutor, I want you to tell about your experience during the time that you treated prisoners, particularly those prisoners who were sent for your treatment. Were they afraid, or what condition, psychological condition they were in? Answer. You are asking about me? Co-prosecutor, I am asking about the prisoners you treated. Answer. To my observation, each and every one of them had a sad face. In each room that I went to provide the treatment, they were not happy. They were shackled in a row together. And for those who were in the same room, they appeared to look happy. However, they had no hope in their face. There were new comers, and there were older prisoners as well in the room. Co-prosecutor, Mr. Witness, you are now telling the court that the prisoner who was sent to you for treatment looked seemingly happy, and they were not afraid of. Is that true, what you are saying? Answer. The prisoner I provided treatment, and at the time I did not mistreat prisoner, and from my observation during the time that I went around to deliver medicines, they had a sad face, and they did not look very happy, and I told them that I was simply a medic. I would, as I told them, end up in this center. I had to work and serve the regime as an obligation, and at the time they appear to be happy after hearing this. Co-prosecutor, let me ask you a specific question concerning the prisoners who were sent to you for treatment, and those prisoners' nails were pulled off. So what was their suffering to your observation? Answer. They underwent a great suffering. Nothing could be compared to the treatment of pulling off their nails. They were beaten up, their nails had been removed, and no matter what happened, I had to treat them. They did not look very happy. Co-prosecutor, Mr. President, I have to move on to a new topic. Do you want me to continue? President, thank you, co-prosecutor. Now it is time for the adjournment, and the chamber will resume its hearing on Tuesday, 3rd May 2016 at 9 a.m. Tomorrow, the chamber will continue hearing witness Tim and start to hear a witness 2 TCW 906. Please be informed and please be on time. Thank you, Mr. Tim. The hearing of your testimony as a witness has not come to an end yet today. You are therefore invited to come and testify once again tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm grateful to you as well, Mr. Moon Sawan, the duty counsel. You are also invited to assist the witness as well tomorrow. Court officers, please work with the vessel unit to send the witness back to the place where he is staying at the moment, and please invite him back into the courtroom tomorrow. And please ask the witness and the duty counsel to wait in the waiting room, because the chamber has to hold the swearing in of an international lawyer before the chamber. Security personnel are instructed to bring the two accused back to the detention facility of the ECCC and have them return into the courtroom before 9.